What's good, y'all? It's T Shaw, pronouns he, him, his.
And this is Scholar P, pronouns he, him, his. And we want to welcome you to the Brewin Black, giving you the latest and greatest in Black news and entertainment for our intellectuals, our millennials, and those who like their information like we like our news. And how's that, T Shaw?
Black.
Black. Oh, man. How you feeling, brother?
Bro, I'm feeling good. I'm feeling good. I think that it's been a hectic week, right? With all the news and different things like that. But I think that I've had some time to myself just to be able to process. And I think it's just like we struggling, bro. We struggling. But I think it's always struggling forward. We're moving toward progress, hopefully.
Absolutely,
How about you?
absolutely. It's the same thing. We're gonna get into this later, but America is patting itself on the back for realizing that grass is green. So it's just one of those things where we're so backwards that you almost have to celebrate the fact that we know grass is green, but we've been quote unquote colorblind for so long, pun intended, that you got to find a little bit of hope and hold on to it. So that's what I've been trying to do this week. I think this week is about getting your ish in order, getting your stuff together, getting
Absolutely.
organized. Right. That's what I've learned in my personal life, and that's what I've been seeing from a societal standpoint. So I'm excited to see where things go from here in both my personal life and in this crazy thing we call a country. You know.
I feel it. I feel that, bro. So before we get started, I want to do our land acknowledgments. So we're sitting on the land of the Gabrielino and the Tongva. This is stolen land. This is colonized land, and we will always, always, always pay those respects.
Absolutely, absolutely. And just to get us started, we have some quick updates and acknowledgments. First of all, R. Kelly's associate tried to set Azriel Clary's vehicle on fire. He actually pled guilty to that charge. And once again, I know R. Kelly is old and current news somehow, but I think that once again, for those of you who might still not believe that this man was a terrorist to young women, and especially young Black women, just like the lengths that his associates are going through to threaten these women who've spoken out. It's a travesty. It's a tragedy. And if you're still supporting R. Kelly after this, you need to take a long look in the mirror at yourself. Do you have any quick thoughts on that?
No, bro, you said it all. Like it's disgusting, right? Like he's even calling these shots from jail. Like I just like you said, if you still are bumping R. Kelly, if you still talking about R. Kelly, you still consuming R. Kelly media, you just got to take a look in the mirror for yourself. Like it's at this point, it's unexcusable and it's undeniable.
Right, right, absolutely. So, staying in that music category, we want to talk about this little Dirk situation. T-Shark, can you tell the people what happened when Little Dirk tried to get some folks together to enjoy some good ratchet hip hop music?
Absolutely, bro. Absolutely. So, I mean, I think a lot of people heard about it. It was called Smurkchella. People were real excited to get back into the streets. It was a festival. Everybody's been calling for these music festivals. So, Lil Durk organized one in Arizona. Because I think they were really the first ones to allow that to happen. But you know, you know how we be like black folk. And it brought out the ratchets, bro. Like if I'm gonna just keep it real, it brought out the ratchets. It was, I guess, an utter fail. What I've heard about it, it was very unorganized, just in general as a festival. Like its ins and outs just weren't really running. Security guards didn't really pat people down. People even bum rushed the securities, knocked them over. So a bunch of people spilled in that didn't even buy a ticket. A bunch of people were like, I shouldn't even bought a ticket to this. I could have got in for free. And it allegedly got shot up. It's still up in the air if it actually got shot up or not. But there were definitely people in there with guns, and they were allowed in with guns, or like the security didn't do a thorough enough search to stop people from getting to that point. So, that was a fail. But in better news, there's a bunch of festivals that are coming back. And I'm interested in hearing what what type of artist you're interested in hearing, knowing that the world's kind of opening back up. We got EDC coming out. We got Rolling Loud is a big one. I think like half the country talking about going to Rolling Loud. So, that's not going to be on my list. But Day in Vegas, Afro Nation. I saw Meg Thee Stallion post that she was going to be on like maybe like 3 or 4 of these festival lineups. So with these lineups dropping, if you're not comfortable going to a festival, what artists are you kind of excited to see?
Yeah. So, I think that I'll say that since I've gotten the vaccines, I've been very, very much so more open to doing the festivals and living my best life, because I know I've taken the proper precautions. So for me, I want to go to the Afro Fest. I want to go to the Curl Fest. Rolling Loud sounds cool. Not to say that I'll go to all of them, but the idea of them sounds super intriguing. And I sort of like to be around the vibes, right? Especially as summer is
I feel
approaching
that.
us. Yeah, like I'm starting to work out again and trying to get this
Okay,
body right.
okay.
Not necessarily for the summer, just for my entire livelihood and life. But I think that when we do go back outside for real, I want to see the people who were controlling the summer even when we're inside. So Meg has been dominating the charts regardless. I love to see her. I love to see Cardi. I love to see Drake. And to be honest, I feel like I'd love to see a reemergence from a Kendrick. I think Kendrick coming
Please.
out and like surprising people at a festival will go crazy. Because I think the game is starved for his music. There are a couple of joints from maybe a Big Sean here and there. I want to see Cole reemerge with some
On
solo
me.
stuff,
On me.
especially given the Dreamville Festival, not happening this year.
Bro.
Yeah, so like it's just one of those things where a lot of artists have a lot to catch us up on. But I'm looking at the super big names personally. What about you?
I feel that. I feel like I would love to see a Cole concert or the festival. I had tickets to the Dreamville Fest because I really mess with a lot of Dreamville. So I would love to see like Ari Lennox. I would love to see
Oh,
like
absolutely.
Jid. Who else? Yeah, man, I would love to see Blast and Bino. Those are LA artists. But it's a vibe, bro. It's a vibe. I mess with them. Who else? Who else? I think that's a lot of the music that I've been listening to. It's a lot of Dreamville. But yeah, I would go to a Drake concert. I've been to one before, and the man is a performer. That's why I really like J. Cole concerts too. Like I think people don't see him as much as a performer, but he is, and I think that that's kind of cool. So yeah, I think that those are on my top. And like if I could, I'd probably even go to like a Beyonce Jay-Z concert, like a On the Run 3 or 4. That'd be live.
Right. Yeah, that would be incredible. And well, I'm sort of torn too, because I just started to think about when you said Beyonce J, I started thinking about a watch the throne, and I started to also think about like what is Kanye's mentality now that he's not with the Kardashians, or he's starting to make that break. And I wonder, we all wondered if he was in a sunken place, with some of his antics and some of the things that he would say. So not to say that I support him politically or morally and ethically, but it would be interesting to hear what he has to say. And like, if he does come with some music to sort of talk about that. And, what if he comes out, if Kanye came out the gate super radical, do you feel like you'd say, like maybe let's listen to him or stream him again, or what do you think?
Nah, bro. I couldn't do it because it's like you sold out for a white woman. Like, like you were radical before you got with a white woman and you became a Trump supporter, and then you're back radical again. Nah, bro. I don't mess with his values at that point.
I
uh,
feel you. I
I
feel
ain't gonna
you.
lie, what was it? The Sunday service, them joints, they seem like they smacked. Like they look like they really sounded good. I didn't really partake, but whatever was on like social media, I tapped into. It sounded a little lit. He had even dropped a song called Donna, like after his mom, and it
Right.
was actually kind of cold. But like, yeah, bro, I can't be caught supporting him. I'm not gonna listen to it in public. If I do, like y'all ain't gonna hear about it.
Basically, yeah. He's definitely one of those sketchier ones for the public consumption. Yeah, man. Oh yeah. What a sad story. Shout out to Nick Cannon and Kiera Sheard, who did a No Weapon Formed Against Me Shall Prosper remake. originally done by Fred Hammond. And yeah, that one was actually really dope. I enjoyed that. I don't want to go to a Nick Cannon festival per se, but that one song was good, you know. Especially since his biggest hit is also with R. Kelly. It's just weird.
Yeah.
Yeah. So shout out to all the artists who are coming back. Shout out to make the sound. We know you're going to dominate this summer. And for those other artists we mentioned, we hope you're making some type of reemergence, and that you're going to take over your respective cities or go on some tours, because the country is itching for it. You know, and shout out to Versus TV too. Yesterday was 420. And like they had their Redman and Method Man had their little thing going. So it's just going to be exciting to see how artists navigate moving around now. Oh, also, last thing, when you said Day in Vegas, it made me think about Usher's residency, which we talked about briefly.
I would show up to that. We can go. We can make that move.
Oh my gosh, Brewin Black takes over Vegas. What?
You know I know the ropes.
Oh my goodness. So yeah, shout out to all of those artists. But you know what? Taking it back to a weird note, because some entertainers we support, but some folks who entertain us, sometimes they try to be well-intentioned, but they just get it wrong, T. Mm-hmm. So right now what we have to do is hit y'all with something that we like to call our light roast. So basically, for those of you who don't know, a light roast is when we critique someone or something in society that's messing up a little bit. And sometimes if the situation calls for it, we give them some constructive criticism. Now, T-Shaw, do you want to tell the people what happened with the Raiders, the Las Vegas Raiders now?
Yeah, unfortunately, bro.
Oh, condolences to you, brother.
Yeah, no, that's not my team. You know, I'm a Cleveland Browns through and through. But yeah, no, it's short and sweet and it's simple, but I think that they deserve the light roast more than anybody. So we know that we got the Derek Chauvin, the verdict yesterday, and that verdict was guilty. And the Las Vegas Raiders proceeds to post "I Can Breathe" for 2021. And then they have their little logo on there. And then I think the problem is when their owner doubles down. The owner doubles down after there. I want to believe, like, let me bring it up just so I'm sure. I want to say there was 73,000 people. 73,000 people quote tweeted this and said, "You need to delete this." Imagine telling 70,000 people, "No, you're wrong. I'm right. I'm going to keep this up here. I'm sorry if I offended anybody, but it's going to stay." Like, the ego, the audacity, the caucasity for Black people, not only Black people, but Black people specifically, to tell you, like, this is in poor taste. You simply did not read the room. This is insensitive. Like, who can breathe? I can't breathe. There was a 16-year-old girl killed yesterday. So who can breathe? They still on our neck. But yeah, I guess I just want to get your thoughts about it.
No, absolutely. And I think that a lot of people, you know, and a lot of non-Black people, this isn't how you show allyship. And the reason that we're so offended, T-Shaw, you said it perfectly, is that, you know, Black people are still in a state where our lives are constantly in danger. First of all, we'll get into this later, but, you know, just because someone got a guilty conviction, there's so many steps in the criminal justice system in terms of what justice means, even if you even believe that locking someone up is justice in and of itself, which we'll get into later. But the reason that this is still, you know, hard to deal with for Black folks is that, you know, MaKhia Bryant was just shot in Columbus, Ohio yesterday, right? We had Jacob Blake's killer, well, not killer, but the guy who paralyzed him. He sort of walked pretty scotch-free without too many repercussions. You have Dante Wright, who was killed, who had connections to George Floyd, right? Harmless, good connections. His George Floyd's partner used to be Dante's teacher. Like, and these people are still getting killed at random, while you have white mass shooters, white folks who've put police in danger, still find a way to come or be locked up or put in handcuffs, but be alive after they've taken lives or threatened lives. And so it's still something where we're still worried about our children, our brothers, our sisters, our mothers, our fathers, our aunts and uncles, our friends, et cetera, et cetera. And so, no, it's not safe. No one can actually breathe. And if you say that you can breathe, you need to take a look around and say, why is it that I feel like
I can breathe,
but like no one else supports that statement? Maybe it's because everybody else, it's like that, that Jordan Sparks song, No Air. We still have none.
Absolutely, bro.
Still have none. So that's how I feel about it. T. It's really tone deaf, and it goes back to what you were saying before. If 70,000 people are like, hey, this is offensive, this is why, like, maybe take a listen and not walk in that arrogance.
Yeah, exactly, bro. Like I think that even if you meant to do like the most good, like say I come to a party and I'm like, I'm gonna bring chocolate cake, and nobody at that party likes chocolate cake. Everybody there is allergic to chocolate cake. It's like, damn, well, I didn't mean this, but it's still like, no, we don't want this. Like, can you take it away? You like, no, you gonna eat this cake. Like, that's what I feel like is happening. It's like you're not listening, and you're saying you did this out of kindness of your heart, but it's like these people don't want that, right? Like, and you have to be able to reconcile with that, because then at that point, it's like, are you doing it for them or are you doing it for you? And it becomes very selfish. And I think that like that is what privilege is, right? And in this example, it's white privilege. It's like, no, I think that this was a great thing. It's like the same way that like white people feel okay, and they feel emboldened to like congratulate the next black person they see, like, oh, good job on the verdict, right? Like that was great, right? And it's like, damn, bro, like I don't know, man. It just is crazy, because it's like this is not the end all be all, and it's like everybody's really celebrating this like it's really the win of the century. And don't get me wrong, like it's progress, but it's like I don't feel that great about it. I don't feel like we've gotten to the mountaintop, like as Martin Luther King has said, right? Like this was the bare minimum, and I think with statements like that, people don't realize that. Like it was Eric Gardner who first coined the phrase like I can't breathe. His killers weren't like Eric Gardner wasn't given any justice. Matter of fact, the person that recorded it was put in prison, and he was at Rikers Island. So I'm sorry, it's not a prison, it's a jail. And he was getting poisoned there. So it's like, nah, like he literally can't breathe, right? So I think that it's just so much bigger than this one case happening in the vacuum. And I know this is kind of moving over into our next segment, how we feel about the verdict, but it just doesn't feel like they're telling me it should feel. Like for the president to be calling and congratulating, like all it is, and don't get me wrong, it was important, but it's like, damn, are we gonna get this again? Because we need this every week. The president needs to be calling like everybody mama. Like it was this one specific case. Don't get me wrong, it went worldwide. George Floyd became a symbol of government oppression, right? Like all the people that feel as if their government is killing them and putting them down, he became a symbol of that. But this happens every day, every week, right? And so yeah. I'm sorry, I might have went on a tangent, but it's like I feel like I've had this so much bottled up, and it is frustrating that people don't get it, and they don't want to listen either.
Right. No, I totally agree there. I think that with this trial, and yeah, let's talk more about it, right? So let's move on to that. So, him being guilty on all three counts, that's great. But once again, it was like, if I record a lawn and I tell you the grass is green and you can see that the grass is green, do I then give you a cookie for saying, hey, in that video, that grass was clearly green? No. But America has been telling us that the grass is blue for so long,
Mm-hmm.
that our hope is that now that they know that the grass is green, they also know what else needs fixing around the lawn,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I guess my question, or I guess what I'm trying to say to America, is that a lot of times when these types of things happen, Black people are asking for these officers to be held accountable, but our biggest thing is looking at the situation and still feeling like this could be anyone in my circle. This could be any one of my family members, my friends. This could be me. Like, I don't feel necessarily any safer. I think that this is maybe a warning shot, but then but for those of you all who don't know, like, he's not serving his sentences consecutively, he's serving them concurrently. And so there are some complications that can happen there. Things are up to the judge's discretion. So like, he could end up not serving all of this time, which added up is, I think, around 75 years. He might not end up serving nearly that amount of time, right? Also remember that he's a police officer. So think about, not to say that his jail life will be cushy, but like, there might be protections, formal and informal, that folks take, you know what I'm saying, to make sure that like, he's not destroyed or shown, a different type of justice that some of us might want him to see. And so there's just so many steps. This is like -1. And the only reason that we're right, like, it's step -1, because it was so obvious. But to your point, I think when I think about the president calling and congratulating, I'm like, we need a specific sector of the White House that's dedicated to dealing with Black families who have had their children destroyed by modern day lynchings. That's Absolutely. What we need. Yes. We're talking about reparations for the general Black population, which is true, but what about reparations for these families who are still experiencing slavery with their own children today, right? So I think that when it comes to this case, I think white folks, non-Black folks, and even Black folks, we all need to understand that this is really negative step 1. This case, it was super obvious, it was super blatant, but there have been many a case where we knew was also modern day lynching, but it might not have been as pun intended, black and white as this was. If you see a guy bashing someone in the head with a bat for 9 minutes, you can say, yeah, no, he killed him.
Pretty cut and dry.
Yeah, it's pretty cut and dry. So it's like, I think, and we've talked about this before, but I feel like America is like, it's like trying to teach. It's like racism is trigonometry, and like America is like a 5-year-old. You know what I'm saying? But some of these things are just really, really simple, and so it's disheartening that like this is a victory when this should just be the norm. And I think that's what a lot of Black folks are frustrated about.
Absolutely, bro. You said so much good stuff there. And like, really what stuck out to me is like, yeah, the president, like, instead of calling his family, like, don't get me wrong, like, that should be more common practice. But like, bro, I need you calling the reparations committee, figuring out like what's the policy we need to do. And just like you were kind of getting at, we don't feel any more safe. We do feel like, in the way that justice is served now, that we might have gotten some justice. But what the family say quite often, like, yeah, this is justice, but like, this not going to bring Floyd back. It's not going to bring George back, right? And I think that that's all people want. Like, at the end of the day, just like you said, like, we want to feel safer. We want this not to happen. Like, yes, y'all have showed us that when we have the perfect case and we have a 9-minute video of somebody doing it, that it still will be a close call, but that we have a chance. That's what y'all telling me. And don't get me wrong, that's progress. But what it I think Malcolm X said, it was in the video that was trending. It's like, if you stab me in the back and you pull it out 6 inches, like, and there's still some blade in there, like, I'm not gonna celebrate that. Like, you didn't even, we can't even start until you've pulled the blade out completely and started to heal that wound. That's when we can start talking. And that's what reparations is, right? Like, it's a reconciliation process. It's a healing. And I think that that's why that's so important. But we're never going to heal when we finally got them to acknowledge, like, damn, yeah, I kind of stabbed you. Like, before, it's like they shanked us a little bit and just kind of walked off, and it's like, oh, what happened here? And it's like, nah, like, now at least we got y'all on film. We caught y'all in 4K, bro. We caught y'all in 4K. And that's like, and it still felt close. I think that that's the scariest part, bro. Like, the whole world seen it. It's like, I think the only reason that they found this man guilty, they knew they had to sacrifice him, because if there was no guilty on all these charges, then like it's up. And if it's up, then it's stuck. Like Cardi B said,
Right. Yeah.
like
Absolutely.
it's over. And I think that not only like are people in the United States not going to believe in this justice system, but people all over the world aren't. So it's like, get your military out of our country. If y'all can't even govern y'all people right. So it's like, how are you bringing democracy to the world, quote unquote, quote,
Yeah.
if y'all can't even do that in your own country? And I guess like my final point with this is just like, yeah, you were talking about how he might not, or he might be serving it concurrently, like together rather than like consecutively. Um, as a prison abolitionist, like in theory, like I don't think that he needs 70 years to get the point, to get the lesson. I think that if it was a true rehabilitation process, he would only need a few. Actually, I feel like for me, justice would be having not him being locked up, but him having to attend all of George Floyd daughter's, like her graduation. He has to sit in, like he just has to be present. He has to feel all of that hurt to be there to witness like the loss of the family. Like his pension should all go to like that family. Like they should get his house. Like I don't know. Like that might be a little extreme. Don't get me wrong. I'm just rapping at this point, but it's like there has to be something, right? There has to be. He has to feel it, and him sitting in the cell, even if you put him in solitary, it's not doing a job that I needed to do.
Yeah, I mean, and I know a lot of California prisons are very much race based. So like, all it would take, even if he wasn't General Pop, is he's gonna band with the white supremacists who are gonna be like, nah, it's not a bad move. We'll
Oh
take care of you.
yeah.
Like it
You're
doesn't.
our leader, yeah. Like
Yeah, like come on now. So it's one of those things where I want to walk our audience through something. So imagine you are a cop who, feels like, hey, I don't like this. I don't like this. I don't think that Chauvin should be going to jail for this, right? So you've seen Chauvin be, arrested and he's guilty. But if I'm a cop who doesn't mind killing black folks or doesn't mind going over the limits of the law and invoking my authority, I'm not really all that worried yet, because first of all, we don't know what the sentencing is. And then even if we do know what the sentencing is, this is in one city in one state, right? So we got to think about this from a structural level. How do we make these cops all over the country feel like, oh, I can't go out and hurt a black person tonight. I can't go out and be racist tonight. I can't put my white supremacist values on that. And then and then let's say you're not even connected to a white supremacist organization. If you consider yourself a quote unquote good cop, how do we stop the good cops from having these biases that actually destroy black lives? And because I think that, I was having a conversation with one of my good cop friends, and they're talking about, some of these officers, they made some mistakes. They weren't trained well. They didn't take their training seriously. And I'm like, great, but guess what? A pilot can't use that excuse. How many times can a pilot mess up when the pilot has control over so many people's lives? Right?
mm-hmm.
How many times do you, with all of your power and authority, get to mess up? Not a lot. And heavy is the head that wears that type of crown, but this is something you chose and elected to be a part of. And so, I need you to be afraid that you're going to lose everything too. Like you were saying, pensions need to be on the line. Something needs to be on the line, because guess what? No matter how much you get taken away from you, you'll still have more than George Floyd.
Absolutely.
So I love what you were saying about restorative justice and us thinking about new and creative ways to make these people suffer. I'd put him near George Floyd's family too, if I wasn't worried about their trauma and whatever about seeing that murder. But to your point, there needs to be some systems that challenge his thinking and make him really have to sit with that for the rest of his life. And really, like, he needs to know that he destroyed a human. He destroyed a human on purpose. And like, these are the ramifications mentally and emotionally and spiritually for that.
Yeah. And thank you for adding that too. Cause like, of course, like there's a trauma on the family. Like they probably never want to see that man again. But like, I'm thinking, I guess what I was thinking is just like, Imagine the daughter gets older and she wants to know why. She should be able to ask that question. He should have to look her straight in the eye anytime she want to ask that question. Like, he has to be on that beck and call, because it's like, how can you ever explain that to a kid, right?
Right, right. And you know, I just before we move on, I just want us to give our audience some advice. So, you know, for those who are wondering what's next, right? You know, how do we sort of keep the movement going? You know, we're supposed to be happy, but we're also supposed to be keeping America accountable. How do we go about doing that, T?
Yeah. Man, that's a hard question, right? Because I was just gonna say that, like, LeBron James posted a picture today, and he's been getting a lot of flack. If y'all go on social media, I mean, right now, but like, there's a lot of racist people saying a lot of racist things about LeBron, because he said, like, "You're next." He took it was like a screenshot of the picture of the police officer that killed MaKhia Bryant, or MaKhia. What's the last name?
MaKhia Bryant. Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's Bryant. Yeah. So he was just saying, like, and he put hashtag accountability, and they're making it seem like he is inciting a riot, and LeBron is like, oh, we're gonna go lynch him. And I think that, like, for them, maybe it just sounds too familiar to what they used to do. But more than anything, he's saying, like, police officers will be held accountable. So just be on the lookout. And I think that knowing that, like, MaKhia Bryant was killed, like, it hurts, bro. Like, just knowing that, like, she was killed at the same time that this verdict is being read, it proves to me that, like, there's so much more we have to do, so much more we have to fight. And I think that it's also hard for me too. So I might not have an answer, because today I woke up to social media saying, like, oh, that girl had a knife. She charged the girl, which she did, that she deserved to die. And it's like, well, now the standard has to be that you're killed in cold blood without anything, right? When it's like, we know that mass murderers are always apprehended alive. I watch videos all the time of white people fighting police officers with knives and different things like that. And not saying that none of them are killed, but a lot do live. So it's like, what is a taser really for? So I think that, to me, that tells me that this stuff cannot be reformed at all.
Yeah, yeah, and to your point, and I love that you put more context around it, because it's just like, in that situation, because you can't tell me that any cop that is going and dealing with Black people today doesn't have that on the back of their minds.
Mm.
And no cop wants to let's go with this good cop category, right? This good cop category. Any cop that has any logic or common sense should understand, if you take a Black person's life, that is going to cause stress on you, your department, your family. So I would be thinking that you're walking with, like, super anxiety. Like, and the funny thing is that when you could use a taser to disarm someone, to incapacitate someone, let's say, all right, the girl's willing a knife, but, like, does she have to die? Don't y'all have weapons? Don't y'all have trainings to de-escalate situations like that?
Mm-hmm.
Right. Did she have a gun that she was pointing at you or the other person? No. And furthermore, when you're supposed to be using a taser, you can't use a taser, or you're supposed to be using a taser and you use a gun instead, even when you say taser multiple times. So it goes back to what you were saying. It's just like, we need people to think about why a cop would actually stop. Because right now there's not a lot of reasons to stop killing Black people, because there isn't that accountability. And for anyone who considers themselves allies, I want you to think about this. What could happen in American society that can make any and every Black person feel safe, like they will not get killed by a cop when they walk out the door? And I want you to think about every part of that process, right? So maybe it's not the cop getting charged and getting counted as guilty. Maybe it's a cop's pension being taken away. Maybe it's policies like qualified immunity being adjusted or gotten rid of. Maybe it's the sort of the dismantling of the whole police force in general. But I need you to think about everything that makes a Black person feel like, I won't get killed today. And I think that if you start to think about all these different little elements, that could make a Black person feel like they won't get killed today, that's when you start getting into the structural and not just this one-off, this guy is guilty, we're sending him to jail. Now every Black person can feel safe. Because people were getting killed during the trial, after the trial, before the trial, and it will continue to happen. And like I said last time, it's like a horror movie. Black people don't know when or how we're gonna go, but we're afraid that it's gonna be not because of something we did, but because of the color of our skin, and that's scary. So we need people to think about, all right, how do we mediate that process? What can I do today to make a Black person feel like they will actually live? Like, we just got to live. Then how do we create equity so the Black person can thrive and be happy? We still can't, we haven't even got past the, like, I'm confident I'll live today. So that's the thing there.
Preach.
That's the only thing there. But yeah, man, shout out to George Floyd's family for getting to hold the first step in justice. And of course, it's a long road. It's something that they're going to have to deal with for the rest of their lives. But I encourage people to always keep his family in your hearts and prayers. Make sure that they're well taken care of, because a lot of times, it's not like Nancy Pelosi said, George Floyd didn't sacrifice his life.
Oh, hell no. He didn't want to get that shit up. He's not a martyr.
Right. No one is trying to be a martyr, but now, it's almost like a form of liberation and inspiration, but also constant trauma. Like, I see the face, I can never, they might not ever really be able to, live a day without having to think about George Floyd and the way he was taken and stolen from them,
Yeah, absolutely.
So shout out. Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think that, like, just because I keep thinking about politicians that are talking about this, and usually the last thing they say is they're using his death to show that, like, you don't need to riot and different things like that. And I think that, like, just as important as the protest was, a nonviolent protest, the riots were to getting this result. Because I think, again, it shows you the power of people if you continue to, like, do injustice. So, like, what I'm gonna leave y'all with is, and this is on tape, like, if they ever kill me, y'all niggas better be burning, looting, and all that.
Yeah, I would knock on wood that they ever take out me or any of my loved ones or close people, because no cop can show up to me and be like, hey, tell the people to. I'm gonna be like, people, do whatever y'all want to do whatever. I'm not stopping the violence. I can't do it. That's just not on my heart. And for those politicians, T, I love that point you made. For those of y'all who feel like, hey, this one case is the reason y'all shouldn't riot. Unfortunately, politicians, there are the ratio of cases that have worked out and the one that y'all can point to, it doesn't make sense mathematically. So you have 30,000 cases where cops walked away scotch-free, and now you have George Floyd where the man is guilty and we don't even know what his sentencing is going to be yet. Get out of here. Y'all got a lifetime of work to do, and y'all still will fall short. But it is what it is. Stay tuned, because I'm sure as we get more updates about the sentencing, T and I are gonna have some thoughts on it. And at the end of the day, no matter what, the goal is still going to be to push America to go even harder, because it has a lifetime to do so. So yeah, man. Yeah. But speaking of which, because we talk about George Floyd, we talk about his legacy and how he was a unintentional, he didn't want to be a martyr, but that's sort of what he was. Some people put themselves out there in a different way. Some people just they just sit on that hill and fall and lay down when there's really no reason to. Some people just choose violence for themselves. And one of the brothers that has chosen violence for himself and has made a brand off of it, a real brand, right? Is this brother known as Kevin Samuels. Now, for those of you who don't know, Kevin Samuels has his own show. I believe he's an author. He started off actually in advertising and marketing. But he was on the YouTube game for years, telling men, what to do and things of that nature. But he's actually created a show where women call in and talk to him about his show. And his whole thing is a high value man. So he is a relationship guru who sort of, in my opinion, takes the opinions of men and tries to make men the oppressed group, tries to make men the ones who have been silenced and have no power anymore in relationships or standards. And apparently men have been manipulated, controlled, abused by women, and society can't stand men, and they definitely can't stand Black men. So Black men are now the people who go through the most, and women, they don't work hard. They're not independent beings, or they're soft, they're sensitive, they're not logical, they're not rational. They are, how do you say, too emotional. They depend on a man for everything. They think women think that they can just say something and stuff will manifest, versus a man who's been taught that you got to go out and get it. And
What else
those
he
are,
say? He said something about like, they depend on systems. Like their whole their lives should be dedicated to marriage. He
yeah,
talked about women's value depleting when they become older and men's value rising, and so women should definitely figure out that they need to get married earlier. Like,
right. So because I wanted to listen to him because I had no idea what he was sort of on. I had heard his name a little bit, but I didn't understand why a lot of people didn't like him. And then I listened to him and I was like, I get it now. I get it. I think what I'm, and we're going to go back and forth on this, of course. I'll start off with one of my biggest things with him is that, first of all, he talks about the idea of the high value man. And he says that he uses women's metrics, and he sort of flips it on them. So, he's saying that women want a 6'5", 250-pound, makes $10 million a year type man. But a woman, if she has kids, if, she's older, if she is not submissive, if she is strong and independent, how could she want a man like that? If a woman isn't perfect, she can't have any types of standards for a man. She should just get what's quote unquote her level. I think my first issue with this is that, high value is you're basing it off of superficial metrics that you believe women to have, So first of all, he's projecting women's metrics on women. Because obviously for some reason he must be able to identify with a woman more than a Black woman can identify with herself. But the metrics are off, right? So assuming that every woman wants that particular prototype of a man is inaccurate. It also assumes that, a man who's rich, who's 6'5", who's 250 pounds, who makes $10 million a year, who has a nice house and a nice car, is actually a high value partner. Those can actually be some of the most emotionally, verbally, mentally, and in extreme cases, physically abusive partners ever. I remember back in my time in a city that shall remain nameless, you had a lot of quote unquote high value people. They were in shape, they looked good, they made money, but they treated women like absolute dogs. Their emotional intelligence was -1. And that was super, super clear. And so I think that I'm going to start off with the high value man part. What you consider to be high value, first of all, is not high value in a lot of people's eyes. And the metrics that you say women use, how do you get to say what metrics women use? Maybe the women you talk to, maybe the women who rejected you, if you got rejected by those types of women. But I know a lot of women and a lot of my close women friends, and they don't necessarily date someone who's that prototype and they're happy, or they don't want someone who's in that prototype if they don't also have emotional intelligence and know how to communicate and treat someone with kindness, which is not anything listed in his high value argument. And I've heard it multiple times. So, that's the first thing. So T, what do you think about the high value man conversation?
Bro, just like you said, I think you provided a real world example of what that high value man kind of looks and acts like, right? It's like we've talked about on here about how because of like societal like oppression, right? Black men that exceed and that do well, they are really seen as like commodities. And I think that he is talking about this select population and them pretty much having the privilege to take this pick on whoever they want and have whatever they want. And women can't desire or covet these men. One, that's like one of his main points is that like, oh, like the man picks you, you don't pick the women. And or the man picks you, you don't get to pick the man pretty much. It's like, you should be a pick me. That's what I'm hearing. I think that that's one of the first things that I'm hearing. The second thing I'm hearing is that like, he's pretty much talking about how women and them being independent is a turnoff and how they need to pretty much be like subservient to this high value man, that this high value man covets that, right? That, oh, black men have to go to Harvard to have a woman submit to them, but what did he say, undocumented
Right.
immigrant
Right.
can sell roses or sell berries or something and come home and have a home cooked meal, and a woman that provides and that's doing caretaking. But it's like, one, it's like, bro, who are you? It's clear to me that he's not tapped into people, because I think that like oftentimes if they're undocumented, they both are working two jobs. And there's other people in that home working jobs, right? Like, I think that like, and then he's forgetting completely like that there's machismo, that like that there is a very toxic masculinity that is present in the black community that is also prevalent in like Latino communities. So I think that like he when you can take logic and you can make a claim, this is what they teach you in school, make a claim and then back it up with evidence. He does that. He knows how to set a persuasive argument for sure, but that doesn't mean that he's right. And I think that that's the problem. He talks like he's just like, oh, no one can argue my claim, so I'm clearly right. So women, he to me, he just comes off as a male chauvinist for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think to that point, you said something very particular about him not being tapped in with people. And it's like, he's tapped in with the audience who loves the stuff that he says and wants to
Yeah.
access that type of toxicity. Right.
Yeah.
And so this idea that, you know, a black man should have a woman be subservient too, darn it. How come we can't have that? Is really wild to me. Now, my thing is this: if a woman wants to and prefers to be in the household and, you know, cook you meals and serve you and wait on you hand and foot because that's her choice, that's fine. But what we can't do is villainize or demonize women who don't want to or can't do that. So I think that he tries to sort of put that in the atmosphere. I think and I think that another thing that he does is he sort of puts relationships on a pedestal, right? And T, you and I have talked about this, but one of the things that he said in a recent interview is that, you know, your granddaddy might have cheated on your grandmother and had a family across town, but you know what? You didn't hear about it until the funeral because your grandmother knew that it was her duty to keep quiet about that type of stuff. And so what that tells me is that he's okay with black men putting black women through that type of trauma, and black women are supposed to hold it down and settle for that type of abuse, especially it seems, right? Especially if that man, it seems like a high quality man. I love DL Hughley, but one of the things that he said, you know, growing up was that he always thought that if a man provided financially for a woman, he was allowed to do anything else that he wanted to, because financially you're taken care of. And that's what it seems like Kevin Samuels is telling women. Like, if you can get this high value man, first of all, you got to be perfect yourself. And then second of all, you have to be able to withstand that type of abuse. I didn't hear him say the opposite. I didn't hear him tell a high value man, hey, look, if you get a high value woman and she cheats on you, brother, she has another family across town, you hold it down as a man. Mm-hmm. Right. And I think that he sort of tries to put men as the victim. He says that when men have standards, you know, or says that that you know, women can't have this or have that, they're attacked. But when women say, oh, I don't want a short man, I don't want a this man, that man, like, men can't say anything in rebuttal. So he's trying to make men the victims here. And that's a very peculiar thing to try and do, because I think that oftentimes, I know women personally that I feel like have settled, on looks and stuff like that. But it's not really about that for them. And like, who are we to dictate looks? He was calling Saweetie a 6, but it's like, who are you to dictate,
right, bro? Yeah, like who
those?
are you?
Right. I think for me, he just has a lot of things a little twisted. And I think that he wants Black men to be able to access the full dominance of the Black woman. But he's saying that, men, you can't do that until you reach the highest value. You can abuse women, but only when you reach the highest value of yourself as a man. Remember that, young man. And he's saying, look, woman, if you want that high value man, be prepared to marry him, have him cheat on you, have him have whole other families, and you hold it down so that the Black community can thrive. Yeah. I'm telling you.
It's sick, bro. He's a pure sicko. And I knew he was sicko because I want to say about 44 minutes, he quotes the Moynihan Report. And the Moynihan Report is this famous document that blames the decimation of the Black community on poor Black culture. And he says that they have poor Black culture because of absent fathers, women that are using welfare, and there's like one other thing. But in the beginning of this, he recognizes that there has been 200 years or so of oppression up until that point. But then when he starts to have his findings and analysis, he doesn't mention any of this. Like that played no role. Like it's what started off the film, but then it's like at that point, these things are your fault. And I think that like for him and so many like Hotep Black men, they see the Black man as the head of the family. That because every society is patriarchal, the fact that anybody dares refuse that in the Black community, that is the reason that the Black community is down bad. And it's like he takes these numbers and he skews them. He talks about how Black women they aren't married, and he's like, well, why aren't they married? It's because I think it's like 1 in every 3 or 4 Black women is actually married. And I'm like, well, who the fuck? Who proposes, my nigga? Like, who proposes? Like, it is ultimately on the man. So it's like, just like you said, bro, like he talked about how, like, okay, um, granddad had a wife, but then that woman is a stay-at-home mom because women rarely got jobs. Like they didn't even weren't allowed to have their own bank account, right? So it's like there are literal like barriers. There's literal like barriers to be doing some of this stuff. Okay, she has to stay at home. She watches the kids. She's doing all of the home labor, which is labor itself that we don't ascribe value to because that's sexism. Because we leave the work that we don't want to do to women, that doesn't mean that the labor is worthless. Like think about like all of these things we've labeled essential work, right? And it's like so much of that labor is essential, but it's like we deem it to be not that valuable, right? Because we don't want to do it. So that's sexist in itself. But it's like, okay, then this man steps out on his family and creates another family that does not have a father, and he's ultimately blaming that woman, that second woman that maybe didn't even know he had a family, that probably didn't know because niggas be cheating. And the thing is, it's like it's a thing now. The reason that men think that they're a commodity is because of those same practices back in the day. It just looks a little different, but it's the same thing. It's like men have all of these choices, and it's hard to make a pick because they're all great options. But it's like, okay, because I'm that commodity, if I have a child with this woman, I don't have to marry her because I know another woman will want me. And I think that that's crazy, but it is almost how stuff has been working. And now that women are pushing back on that, now that women are taking their power to work and make their own money, that they're the most educated. And that's when I was like, he's a hater, because he said that somebody was like, women are the most educated, Black women are the most educated group. He said, no, Black women are the most enrolled in school. Okay, not only are they enrolled, they get the most degrees. And what do we go to college for? I guess some people go to make money, but most people go to get educated. It's like they're the reasons that we're honestly that the Black Lives Matter movement happens. I know we have our critiques of them, but right, they were the ones that started this stuff. They do a lot of the labor that we don't do, especially intellectual and emotional labor. So I think that, like, to me, again, it's a male chauvinist. I know we say sexist a lot, but a male chauvinist is the same as a white supremacist. And I couldn't help when listening to think about if this was a white man talking about black people or white woman talking about black people, we would feel that this was the most racist thing ever. And I think that that's how we have to start to look at oppression. We have to be able to flip these different categories, these identity categories out, and see how that it sounds. And I think that you have to be able to relate in that way.
No, absolutely. And I think that he was talking about women, not having anyone during the pandemic. But I think we've had this conversation before too, where it's just like, not every woman wants to be married. He talks about, one of the ways you can get a high value man is to be with him while he's young and he's struggling and he's trying to get his stuff together, which works sometimes. But what he doesn't talk about is the trauma that a young man who's trying to get himself together will still put a woman through.
Mm-hmm.
I think he looks at men as these perfect beings who, they're either going to, be on up and coming and cheat on you a little bit. But then if you stick around with him, maybe he'll be faithful to you one day, but if nothing else, you'll at least be financially taken care of from him, or you as a woman, you're going to get old because you're doing your hot girl summer thing. And like now, you're older and the high value man doesn't want you, but we're assuming that makes the assumption that the high value woman is looking to be in something that's likely to be toxic anyway. Right. Mm-hmm. Like I think marriage in and of itself as an institution, you saw divorces increase, not because, people, were badly in love and for some reason they had to split. Like, no, people were being abused. There's mad toxicity in marriages. And now, thank God I can leave.
They
right.
have an option now. Yes, absolutely.
Right. So some of these men that, because even back to your point, T, like some of these women and all of y'all are high value, right? Some of these women wouldn't even accept a man's proposal because it's just like, what can you do for me? Kiki Palmer, shout out to Kiki. She just said on Instagram, she was like, look, I don't even really want to date you for real. Like we can just kick it and be cool unless you're going to put a ring on, unless you're going to show me real commitment. And so I think Black women, like you're saying, and women in general are like really pushing the boundaries because they're actually starting to ask themselves, what can being tied up with the man do for me that I can't do for myself as a single person? And I need to remind all men, whether you consider yourself low value, mid value, high value, medium, mild value, any type of value you consider yourself, right? Look, at any given point, a woman can be with a man with money. She can be with a man who can sex her down good. She can be with a man who's funny. She can be with a man who's tall. She can be with an athlete. She can be with a rapper. Women have these options just existing as women. They have these options, right? And so what you have to ask yourself is, for a woman to settle down with me, I need to actually be balanced, and I need to first of all know how to treat another human being, because that's before you add all the material stuff. Like I need to know how to treat a human being, and like I have to have a balance that is good for that particular woman. Because what I don't like about Kevin Samuel's metrics is that he maps them on to every particular type of woman.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying?
It's not saying that some of those women don't exist.
Right.
There are women like that. There are men like that. And I think that they attract each other often. Yeah.
Yeah. But
not everybody. That's a real small segment.
Very small. Right. And like, even the stuff he was describing, it doesn't seem fulfilling. Like if a woman was just, for me, if all a woman was doing was serving me, I'd be like, well, what do you, I take care of myself. Like I want someone,
exactly, bro.
Right. I feel like as a man, like if you can't be with someone who pushes you to make you better, because a woman who keeps you comfortable all the time is not the woman who's going to make you better. I don't think.
No, not at all. And to me, that means you weak. You don't like to be challenged. You don't like to be pushed. If you want to be the unquestioned leader, you're not a leader at all to me.
Right.
And I think that that's what he kept saying. He's like, women want to lead, but they need to get in a place and follow. It's like, my baby is not my girl if she's not my partner. And she is. I love her because like she is cold. She cold at stuff that I can't do. I've seen her lead. Like she do the damn thing.
Right.
And it's like, that's who I want as my partner. I don't want no scrub. I'm not trying. No, this is a team. And I think that like he don't see it as a team. I see it as a team. Like we playing doubles. Like I need to know that there is somebody on my team that I can trust.
Yes.
Like I would put my life in your hands. Like if we need to make a big play, it's either me or you. Who got the best look? That's how I see as a team, right? Like I played team sports my whole life. So it's like you got to learn to commit or to trust in the people on your team because it's sink or swim together. Right. And it's like if you want to be that unquestioned leader and you want to be LeBron James, but you're not dropping triple doubles, that you're not feeding your teammates. LeBron's so good because he feeds his teammates. Like unless you were Kobe or Jordan and you just dominating the competition, like, and you just need some role players around you, it's not logical in the game of life. You're not that good. Nobody is.
Right.
Like
yeah, like no, absolutely. And I think that you made such a great point. You're really in your bag with the team thing, because it's just like who wants to shoulder or burden a relationship alone, and for some people, and I think that's sort of how he builds his audience, right? He taps into women who want to submit, and he taps into men who want to dominate, right?
He said dominate,
right.
You won't let black men dominate, like no.
Shit. Yeah, and like we said, some people have traditional values, and if that's what works, that's cool. Look, there was a woman on Instagram the other day who was like, "Hey, I don't care if a man cheats on me, just don't embarrass me, just don't be doing it all publicly and stuff. But outside of that, you can cheat on me." So now a lot of women, they say they don't want that, but we know cheating gets tolerated, and if that's what you want, if you want to be dominated by a man, sis, bro, whatever, just do your thing.
Love yourself.
Love yourself. If that's cool with you, that's cool with you. Look, I don't mind washing dishes. I mind getting cheated on, but like dishes, some people will want to wash dishes. Yeah. I wash dishes.
Absolutely.
Getting cheated on, being dominated. No, because I think that he assumes that if a woman has any backbone, that a man automatically has none.
Mm-hmm. He referenced like some Asian communities. He was like, "Oh, go to Korea, go to Japan. I bet you they women not submitting to them, or I bet you they women not pushing back on them." I was like, "Bro, this nigga's sick."
I'm like, "That's your reference point, bro." But yeah, I mean, and maybe it's an age thing. He's 52. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. He talked about men, and probably referencing brothers like us. He was like, grass-fed lions, you know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And what he would rather us do is be lions, be people who like lions tear everything apart limb from limb, because you can. And that's just not how, I choose to operate. I know that's not how you operate. Because at the end of the day, like it doesn't make for a good kingdom.
Dude, that's a bar.
You know what I'm saying? Bar. It doesn't.
I got a quick question. Okay. So you talked about how he kind of blew up over the summer. And during the interview, he was kind of talking about this one man. I think he's Canadian, a doctor or a psychiatrist.
Yeah, Jordan Peterson. Yeah.
Yeah. So he blew up himself. That Jordan Peterson guy blew up because he refused to acknowledge a law that said that you have to call people their preferred pronouns. Right. He felt like that law was stripping him of his First Amendment rights. So maybe it wasn't in Canada, maybe it was here. But he was losing his freedom of speech because this law made him respect people. But that man, he talked about how that man stuff went up to like 2 million followers. Oh damn, my bad. I got excited. That man followers went up, right? And then we see how he's blown up since he's changed his target audience, and he's probably got a little bit more disrespectful. So I guess my question is like, why do people kind of gain popularity in clout and social capital and eventually capital, like real money, real assets, real networks, for being problematic and having these views? Like, why do these people blow up?
Well, because there's always going to be so it's actually sort of funny that you say that, because I think you can relate it to the Trump era and everything like that. All you need is someone who can incite a population that's already exists and feel like they can't be heard, which is usually more privileged groups to begin with. So Kevin Samuels, what he's done is tap into a male audience who feels like they can't say the toxic stuff that they used to say, or they can't, or their toxic actions won't be accepted as much because we've actually grown and progressed as a society. And it was working out for me so well because I could dominate so many people this way. And now that it's changing, dang, I feel like I'm losing it. Kevin Samuels is the guy who's willing to sort of be a political martyr, you know, in the same way that you could say Trump is, the same way that you could say Jordan Peterson is. You know, I'm willing to put my reputation on the line because I know that I will have a cult-like following who has always felt this way, but would always be too cowardly to actually stand in that, because they know that there are repercussions, and there would be repercussions because our society has actually progressed to make people feel more loved and included versus, you know, marginalized. Right. Right. And I think that that's why, you know, a Jordan Peterson blows up. I think that's why a Kevin Samuels or Trump blows up, because they're tapping into audiences that have always existed, but have needed a voice to be out on the front street.
Oh, okay. I fuck with that. Yeah, I was just real curious. And I think you said it all, right? It makes so much sense that audience is already out there. They feel voiceless and they're just championing somebody with that voice. It's like, oh, damn. Well, if I can't say this every day, I can at least listen to Kevin Samuels say it while I go to work.
Right. And I think you made a really great point, because I want to caution creators, right? You know, if you believe in what Kevin Samuels says to your core, you know, and you want to make a following based off that, that's your right as a human being. But I would caution people and creators who are just in this for sensationalism, and saying things that you don't believe and don't subscribe to. I think that there's a genuine part of Kevin Samuels and Jordan Peterson and Trump that believes the things that they say, and they come off as very genuine, and that's why it works for them. But if you start saying, first of all, you know, there are people who are, because I think that people can look at us, Kevin Samuels, and be like, dang, I've been trying to say the right things for all these years, and look at Kevin Samuels. Well, Kevin Samuels, it still took him a while to sort of build up this reputation too. Yeah. And he's 52. It's not like he's a young 20-something-year-old person who's been doing this his whole life. So, which I think you have to remember is that they're going to be like, I love me a Scotty Beam. I love me an Amanda Seals. Van Lathan, Mark Lamont Hill, Michael Eric Dyson, like the list goes on and on and on. And these people, they say things that I relate to, that I feel like a lot of people relate to, and they're still popping. And so I don't ever feel like you can't say the messages that you actually believe and make it in the entertainment space. And then secondly, you know, with these sorts of people, if you're not genuine in the messaging, if you don't believe in the stuff that you're saying, you're just trying to get it for clickbait, it's not going to work, because these people actually believe what they're saying, and they have connected and found their audience that connects with what they're saying. And I think that's the scariest part. It's not listening to Kevin Samuels. It's listening to 2 or 3 men of Brown. Kevin Samuels is like, yo, bro, like I've been thinking this, but I couldn't say it.
Mm-hmm. Sharing it with their friends, like you do with media.
Right. So it's just one of those things where, I will say this about Kevin Samuels. There's nothing wrong with having your particular standards or preferences, but to make this whole system of like, I don't know how you can you could call yourself high value in reference to yourself, but what you can't say is that, you know, hey, I'm high value, you are low value, because no one gets to decide and dictate those metrics. So there's not a normalized system of metrics. Please, if you don't get anything else from this, please remember, there are not a normalized system of metrics. There is no such thing as a high value man, because a high value man to a lot of people could be the most fucked up person ever. Look at Bill Cosby. At one point, he could take care of you, all the houses and cars you could imagine, family man on TV, known around the world. How did that turn out?
R. Kelly too.
R. Kelly, one of the best R&B talents of all time, not even close. How did that turn out?
Mm-hmm.
How did that turn out? But like based on Kevin's metrics, they're high value. They're high value.
Yeah. And it's like, just like you said, there is no one metric system. And if there is a metric system, it's Eurocentric. It's
Right.
built in white supremacy. It's built in like values that aren't to your best interest.
Right. He was talking about women using makeup and stuff like that. And I'm just
Yeah.
like, I was like, all the fake beards and fake fades, all the stuff we put in our sneakers to make us taller. Like, what do you like? Men go through that process too. You're gonna be mad at a woman for putting on makeup. You're not gonna be mad at a man for putting on cologne or wearing a nicer shirt or shaving. Like, come on, man.
Yeah, exactly. Certain hairstyles, like
that's what I'm. And most, and this isn't, and like, I could go on, but I think the point is clear. I just think that with Kevin, there's no such thing as a high value man. And I think that if you support Kevin and you believe in Kevin, you have to sort of sit back and think about why you want to dominate so much or why you want to be dominated so much. But if you take a hard look inside yourself and you're like, that's me, that's who I am, that's who I was meant to be, more power to you, boo-boo. We live your life. Live your life. But yeah, man, that's really all I have to say about it. Kevin Samuels is different. That I was not expecting that. You can't really prepare yourself for that.
Yeah, bro, my jaw was on the ground. Just like you told me that. I was like I couldn't believe somebody was saying this in 2021, but like these values, they've always existed and they're just around still.
Yeah. So that's not where we stand. But you know what? Hey, I'll extend the offer to Kevin. Y'all send this stuff to Kevin at Kevin. Because look, that would be a debate for the centuries, because I think he also talked, this is the last thing I'll say, but he also talked about black men not black men not being able to be canceled if black men own their own media stuff and which like I'm all for, but I also need you to understand that black men are not a monolith. So if you're truly about that, then we have to have conversations as black men where I say to you as a black man, like, how'd you come up with those metric systems? And you say you're trying to validate it by saying these are women's metric systems. What women's metric systems? Who? And like, why do those sound superficial? So like, and let's look at all these lists of celebrities and people who are quote unquote high value, who are abusing their partners in every which way, right? And how are they high value again? Can you remind me, Kevin Samuels? But that's another story. I love for us to have a conversation with him. So I'm putting that out into the atmosphere, because we all have platforms, and I want your audience to have to ponder that, and maybe you can make our audience ponder something too. I think our audience will be even more resolved after listening to our conversation, but who cares? We should have it one day. So Kevin, if you're out there, man, just anytime you want to stop by, come on, or we'll come to you virtually. We'll come to you virtually, possibly. But anywho, man, that's all I got to say about it. T, you got anything else you want to add to KS?
No, that because Kevin Samuels wakes up and chooses violence, like we had to choose violence in this segment too.
Yeah. I haven't seen too many men respond to Kevin Samuels just yet, podcast wise. So it'll be interesting to see the reactions when we get some of these clips to y'all. But yeah.
I definitely got one more thing for Kevin Samuels. This is how I feel.
You're a victim.
Because that's how he comes across in all of his interviews. It's like black men are not victims, y'all. We're not. Nobody is.
Yeah, and it's so funny because he talks about men being these domineering figures, and that's how it's supposed to be. But then at the same time, he calls black men victims, and like they can't say or do the things that women can do, and we don't have someone providing for us like women. Which one is it, brother?
Yeah.
Which one? Because I don't think it can be both. You either this high value man. How's the high value man a victim again? I don't get it, but maybe y'all tell me. Maybe in the comments, maybe we post it up. Just y'all tell, because Scholar P is confused. T, we confused. We don't know.
Same.
So that that's what that is. Shout out to everyone who joins this conversation. So one of our last things that we love to do is give people the spotlight. We start things off with the light roast, to give people their critique, but we got it. We want to end it with love, and positivity. And so, we've talked a lot today about America not necessarily being done in its fight for justice, but we still got to give it up, for Darnella Frazier. Because she's the one, she did more work than the police body cams for real. Sometimes these institutions fail us, and Black people have to say, you know what, I know I can't trust y'all, so I'm gonna go ahead and go the other way and do our own thing. And because she did that, she helped spark nationwide protest, and to see the guilty verdict, it's a step, in the right direction. A super small step in our mind, but still a step in the right direction. And so we want to give that Black woman her credit for documenting that, and the trauma that comes with like catching that on camera too. Because I don't know if we ever discussed that enough.
Absolutely, bro. Absolutely. And I just want to add to that. We want to shout out another Black woman. Her name is Phoenix, I believe, Robles. But it was a video that went very viral. I'm sure a lot of y'all seen it on like Instagram or even Twitter. It was a Black woman. She sat down with a woman that was having a mental health crisis in the middle of the road. It seemed as if she just was driving, and she pulled over in the middle of the road and just sat down. I was like, no, like I can't do this shit no more. As a lot of us feel, in the community, just like kind of how we've seen people have gotten in this habit of just recording. And I think that like in Darnella Frazier's case, like there was nothing that people could have really done in that situation. But like in this situation, it was before the police and everybody got on scene. They were recording her. No one wanted to help her. No one sat down and even talked to her, figure out what was going on. She came, she asked, could she sit down? She got the woman's name. As the police and these EMT people crowd her and they're getting ready to arrest her, and it could have ended violent. Like she verbally fought them back. She protected this woman. And then she began to yell at the crowd. It's just like y'all aren't doing anything. Y'all just sat here, y'all just watched, y'all just recorded, and y'all were gonna let this Black woman like be brutalized because she was sitting in the road. Like no one cared. And it's like I feel like we shouldn't have to beg people to care. And it's just like we sit back and we see these things happen. So I think for me, it was really the care, the unconditional love. Like it was the yeah, bro, it was the solidarity for me more than anything. It's like to see someone that you don't even know and just to be there for them. I think that for me, more than anything, it was like a great, I have to spotlight it because that's like not only a good Samaritan, that's a good human being. Like to see somebody in need and to care for them and never know them and potentially put your body on the line. And there's a lot of people aren't willing to do that. So I think that like that's what progress looks like to me. I know you asked that question a long time ago. It might have took me forever to get to that answer, but that's what progress looks like to me.
Right. Yeah, it's putting yourself on the line, and then just recognizing the hurt and the pain and others, while they're alive, while you still can, because who knows what that situation could have turned into. And then a lot of people would be like, oh man, like I was around, maybe I should have did it. But it's like, no, it's like following that first instinct and being like, let me check, let me make sure she's good. Instead of looking at her in the middle of the road and being like, oh, this is such an inconvenience. Like,
yeah, that's exactly how people were. And she was like, this is the community y'all talking about, a Black community. And y'all just standing there. And I was like, damn, that's real.
Right. So, shout out to Miss Phoenix Robles. And, once again, it's so easy for us to care because we know what it feels like to be labeled as something that is an inconvenience that can be tossed away, that they can be murdered, that can be lynched, and no one care. Or if they care, it's performative. It's 2 or 3 seconds. It's 1 or 2 marches.
Or it's after. It's
right.
after the fact.
Right. It's right after the fact, when in reality you could have been there long before, and it could have been preventative.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So yeah, man, we got to give their people their roses and their flowers. And it's just so crazy because even as you talk about these even as we talk about these awesome Black women, it's just like their lives aren't safe. You know what I'm saying? Like I can't be like, dang, we could give it to them next week, because in this state, in this random country, we don't know. There have been 45 mass shootings, at least. I think this month, but at least since the start of the year, and that's probably a low number. Like you just never know. So we just have to give their people, our people, their roses, especially these two incredible Black women. So thank y'all. But yeah, man, today was a good one. We had some laughs.
It was.
We had some great reflection. And look, we just want to say thank y'all for rocking with us so much. We got more great content coming for y'all, as always, and we want to get y'all's opinions, because this stuff involves you all too. This is a bigger conversation that we want to continue to expand and reach. And so make sure you know, if you're listening, share our clips, hit us up on our Instagram. Just engage with us, because we want to hear your voices as much as possible.
Absolutely. We love the support. We appreciate it. And yeah, just keep rocking with us, and we're going to continue to get better. And I hope you enjoyed this episode.
Absolutely.
So like we like to say, keep the coffee
black.
We like our podcast like we like our women.
Black.
All right, y'all. Say her name, protect Black women, and we will see y'all next week. All right, y'all.